when she was singing at a bar. David thought he was hearing the voice of an angel and offered Annie a drink. A few days later, David proposed to Annie. David was 24 years older than Annie. He had children who were as old as her. David was also on a journey to transform himself when he met Annie. He had been through a divorce with his wife of 21 years, lost his job, house, and car, and had suffered a stroke. After taking his health into his own hands, David lost several pounds and went to Thailand for a fresh start when he crossed paths with Annie. Perhaps the universe conspired for them to meet, since 90 Day Fiancé became something that changed Annie and David's lives forever. Annie praised marriage and IVF process with David. After years of challenges, Annie and David embraced parenthood. Annie and David announced they were expecting a baby in a September interview with Us Weekly. Annie shared her excitement, saying she was over the moon after confirming her pregnancy in July. She expressed gratitude for the overwhelming love and support they received from fans during their IVF journey, calling it a powerful experience of turning the impossible into reality. Annie also opened up about her fertility struggles, describing the decision to pursue IVF as the best decision she's ever made. While she called it an amazing journey, she admitted it had been deeply emotional as well. God's will and whatever is meant to be. Annie had to get some fibroids removed before undergoing the IVF process. David, who'd gotten a vasectomy to get his sperm surgically removed, and they did it on Valentine's Day, which David considers auspicious. He described the IVF process as a miracle. David and Annie are forever thankful that they decided to participate in 90 Day Fiancé. It allowed them the opportunity to share their journey. Annie and David are humbled and honored to be a part of the franchise for 8 years. How marriage and IVF improved Annie's life. Annie and David turned hard times into a new beginning. Annie came from a humble background. She met David when he, too, wasn't in a good place financially. David was relying on the generosity of David's friend Chris Thieneman, who had been loaning David money. Chris reportedly funded David's engagement and wedding to Annie. David was living with Annie in a firehouse owned by Chris when she came to the U.S. However, Chris decided to later sell off the firehouse and forced David to leave within 3 days. He offered David and Annie a chance to live in an apartment above a storage facility without a stove or functioning windows. Annie had been sold false hopes about what it was like to live in America. She obviously became upset about the new house. David asked Annie to trust her, and Annie didn't betray him. David understood the level of disappointment Annie was feeling because he pulled up his socks and dragged them out of the financial mess he'd created. David figured out how to make money using their reality TV fame. They earned through sources like Cameo, and David was able to purchase a home worth $500,000 in Fountain Hills, Arizona. He took up a career in real estate. Annie did have to struggle for the first 4 or 5 years of her marriage, but David tried his best to treat her like a queen. Earlier, whenever Annie and David were asked when they would like to have kids, they never had a proper answer. They seemed to have made up their minds not to have children, but it's possible they didn't want to expand their family while they were in a sketchy financial state. It was only after they moved into the new house that Annie and David decided to try IVF. Annie became pregnant on the first try. Annie and David may be the greatest franchise couple ever. Annie and David continue to break the 90-day mold. Fans have learned to spot social media clues that suggest a couple has broken up. It could be unfollowing each other or throwing shade through stories and captions. However, in Annie and David's case, nothing like that has ever happened. Although both of them post almost every event of their lives online, they have never created relationship drama for all to see. Their love for each other shines through their posts, showing how different they are from most other toxic 90-day fiancé couples. Their consistency and genuine affection continue to set them apart in the reality TV world. Many aspects of their relationship prove they are truly made for each other. Despite facing criticism for their age gap, they never let it affect their bond. David's young at heart and willingly takes part in things that make Annie happy. They've also worked through their language barrier with time and patience. Annie sacrificed a lot to build a life in America, and now David may be ready to uproot his own life and move to Thailand, so Annie can be near her family as a new mom. Their journey sets a meaningful example. 90 Day Fiancé. Who is Josh Weinstein's ex-wife? He was married to someone else before Natalie. Josh Weinstein, star of 90 Day, The Last Resort, was previously married to a well-known reality TV personality before meeting Natalie Mordovtseva. He is best known to 90 Day Fiancé fans as the owner of a modeling agency and Natalie's love interest. Natalie introduced Josh in season 2 of 90 Day, the single life after relocating to Florida following her split from Mike Youngquist. However, Natalie remained legally married to Mike throughout her time with Josh, which made him hesitant to commit. Josh never considered Natalie to be his official girlfriend. Natalie still hoped Josh would become her fourth husband. After 3 failed marriages, she longed to start a family of her own. However, Josh never fully let her in, even refusing to bring her to his home. He was intimidated by her unpredictable mood swings and became her go-to source for money. Natalie also expected Josh to help launch her career in Hollywood. Though he initially tried to support her, Josh eventually gave up due to her ongoing jealousy and insecurity, which became especially apparent during their therapy sessions on 90 Day, The Last Resort Season 2. Josh was married to a woman named Candace Mishler. Meeting Josh's ex revealed old bonds and new doubts to Natalie. Natalie met Josh's ex-wife, via E.T., Candace Mishler, for the first time in an episode of 90 Day, The Single Life Season 3. She also learned that Josh's son Jet, whom he shares with Candace, would be joining them. Josh had mentioned that Candace owned a boat and had invited them for an outing on the lake. He made it clear to Natalie that both Candace and Jet were very close to him. Josh encouraged Natalie to just be herself and expressed his hope that everyone would get along well during their time together. "I don't know if it's normal to be friends." Natalie was anxious about meeting Candace. She felt it wasn't normal to be so close to an ex, even though she herself was still married to Mike and had even admitted she wouldn't be able to choose between Mike and Josh if asked. Still, Natalie believed that Josh's relationship with Candace after their split wasn't appropriate. Despite her doubts, she hoped to get along with Candace. Natalie understood that Josh and Candace had known each other since they were teenagers and shared a long past, which explained the deep bond they continued to maintain. "Oh my gosh, Candace is a very beautiful woman." When Natalie saw Candace in person, she was awestruck by how beautiful she was. Natalie admitted she wished she had worn something sexier instead of a plain black t-shirt. She remarked that Candace had shown up naked to the daytime outing. Meanwhile, Candace told the cameras that she and Josh had been married for 9 years and had stayed best friends even after their breakup. She shared that she still had a habit of telling Josh about her day. "I tell him I love you," Candace revealed, adding, "People sometimes think that we are together." What did Candace think about Natalie? Candace said she'd get back with Josh if Natalie left. Candace felt it was important for her and Josh to make sure she approved of the women he dated. She believed Josh truly valued her opinion. Candace shared that she and Josh had decided they were better as friends and that she was currently seeing someone else. Despite this, many of Josh's past partners had been uncomfortable with how close he remained to Candace. She considered Natalie to be different from the others, not because she was unbothered by the friendship, but because Josh typically dated women who were younger and had a different look than Natalie. In an interview with In Touch, Candace said she was pretty confident that if Josh and Natalie ever broke up, she would get back together with Josh. Candace was certain that Natalie and Josh were done, and she had predicted this breakup by declaring that a lot of Josh's friends and business associates felt that it was time for Josh to move on. Candace added that she was kind of waiting in the corner for Josh to call it quits with Natalie. At the time, Josh and Natalie were about to make their comeback in The Single Life Season 4. Josh and Candace's son Jet met with a shocking accident. Jet lost his leg in the accident. In February, Josh shared devastating news on Instagram that his son, Jet, had been involved in a severe car accident. The incident occurred on February 4th, when Jet and his friend Jackson Elliott were returning from a snowboarding trip in Flagstaff. Their vehicle struck a guardrail on I-17 near Cordis Junction, resulting in Jackson's immediate death. Jet, who was lying back at the time, was impaled by the guardrail but survived, though he sustained life-threatening injuries. Doctors gave him only a 5% chance of survival and warned that he might lose both legs. Jet fortunately survived the accident and has been adjusting to life after the loss of his right leg. His recovery has been shared through social media, where his mother mentioned in April that he was finding his way back to familiar routines, such as going to the gym, riding his razor, and grilling tri-tip. He started physical therapy and has been fitted with a prosthetic leg. In May, Josh posted on Instagram that it had been 100 days since the accident and that Jet now has his prosthetic, expressing excitement about the progress and milestones ahead. Candace appeared on Naked and Afraid. What reality TV show was Candace a part of? 90 Day, The Last Resort star Josh's ex Candace also appeared on Naked and Afraid in Season 15, Episode 6, titled Beauty and the Beasties, where she faced the harsh wilderness of Zambia. She had to leave early due to extreme conditions and did not complete the challenge. She returned for the spin-off Naked and Afraid, Castaways, but exited after 8 days because of a serious bacterial infection. Although she didn't win or finish either season, Candace has spoken openly about her experience and continues to pursue personal growth through outdoor challenges and survival training. 90 Day Fiancé star Annie Sowen thinks she's made the best decision by getting married to David Toborowski, even though the start of their storyline was rough and never showed any signs that they'd stay together. Annie, from a small village in Thailand, caught David's attention.